Well, good morning. No, not good evening, good morning. I thought I would tackle another Canadian club, a Canadian whiskey. And I do like to review the Canadian whiskies. And no, this is not a craft distillery. Hiram Walker, which I believe Beam Suntory owns the brand CC. Now, this company was an icon. Back in 1884, Hiram Walker created this, what turned into almost a monster during the Prohibition period. In fact, the name Canadian Club came from the American distillers trying to boycott or not allow them to import Canadian Club because it was outselling American brands. It was a high quality whiskey. And it was the first brand of whiskey to be shipped by bottles in North America. And it also made its, when I say a monster, it made its fame during the Prohibition. Harry Hatch bought this business, I think it was in 1927. And he turned it into the largest distilling company in the world. And there's so many stories, and even in movies, of a Canadian Club sneaking across the Great Lakes. In fact, there was a story that they built an underlying pipeline to pipe the whiskey from Windsor to Detroit, or we say Walkerville to Detroit. Lots of stories. And so here we are, 20-year-old. Now, I've done Canadian Club before. Now, why is there an interest in Canadian Club? Well, you know, I talk sometimes about my dad, his whiskey experiences and that, because as kids we snuck into it. And when he came back from the Battle of Britain, of course, we talked about his influence from Scotland and England and his love for Scotch. And these were blended scotches, like Teachers, and the scotches, not the scotches that I've been reviewing, that's for sure. Though I do reviews on Dewar's and Ballantine's and Chivas and a few of the others. He would not have been able in those days probably to afford those whiskeys. But having said that, he also drank CC. And I think a lot of it, you know, he's not around to talk to, and I never asked him those questions. Why do you drink CC? I think it was affordable. Canadian whiskey was much more affordable than Scotch. So to preference, he was on budgets, you know. And I'm going to say that Canadian Club was incredibly popular amongst people all over the globe. It was one of the most well-known Canadian whiskeys around the globe. And of course, this here is the 42. I've got the 43 and the 44. Where do you buy an affordable 40-plus-year-old whiskey? Mind you, it is going up in price, by the way, because people around the world are starting to figure that out. So, Canadian Club, 20-year-old. What is it competing with here in Canada? Well, there's been a barrage of 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds that have come out of recent, and I have reviewed them. And of course, the one that I think, and I think it's down here, that I really like this whiskey. This is a High River Distillery in Alberta, Highwood Distilleries, Century 90. 20-year-old, and when I think I reviewed this, I talked about this was not distilled by them. They purchased the Potter's Distillery in the Okanagan, and they inherited, I think, a lot of this whiskey. There's a lot of mystery behind this, as to where did Potter's get it from, or did they actually distill it? You know, after doing a lot of research, this was actually aged in American oak, and also there is some sherry cask influence in this one here too. So here's the 20-year-old Canadian whiskey competing with Canadian Club. What is the big difference in the two here? Well, This is a 45%. That's where it gets the name 90 proof, 45% ABV, and of course this is a 40% ABV. So a lot of times what we do when we hear 40, oh geez, diluted, I'm not there. That's what we drank when I was younger, 40%. And it was more in my recent years education into Scotch. I say recent. I've been drinking it a long time, but more the reviewing and studying Scotch and the culture, and also which eventually led to the bourbons, and boy, Bob Dylan's whiskey. I was a Bob Dylan fan. Things like these are new bourbons on the market. Derringer, Rabbit Hole, and then you got the old timers, Nob Hill, and that I brought that one out because here's a rye. So percentage wise, this has less rye, that rye whiskey, Canadian Club Chronicles there, than this Knob Creek rye. And the only way this can be called rye, by the way, in the States, I believe it has to have, is it 49% or 50%, maybe it's 51. I'll have to, it's somewhere really close to those numbers there. It has to have that percentage of rye, and it could have its corn and whatever mixed in there, but it's called rye, not bourbon. And by the way, I really like this stuff. This is a very good rye. American ryes, there's some good ones out there. This is one of the better ones, so, and affordable, Knob Creek. But anyways, we look at iconic. This is a newer rye, but I call it an iconic rye. You're going to see this all over the world. Lot 40, Dr. Don Livermore's creation, and it's a beauty. And I love this stuff. This is 100% rye. It says right on the bottle, 100% rye. And I believe it's a 45 or a 46. Let me see what it is. It might even be higher than that. It is, I'm reading a 48. 48% alcohol. So this is a beautiful whiskey as well. So, no, it's not a 20-year-old. And I have done a review on this. And this is the dark oak. The regular Lot 40 is a great whiskey too. So highly recommend this, by the way. The Knob Creek in the States. I recommend that. I recommend this as a rye as well. And then this guy here, if you can get it. It's a heck of a good price, by the way, for the 90. So, having said that, let's get back focused on Canadian Club. What are we going to do? Well, we did not bring our Glencairn, and I'm lucky because I always keep myself a Trudeau glass. I do have a Canadian. I have a Canadian Glencairn whiskey glass. I should be using it, but I'm not. We'll use it. We'll bring it out. This is a whiskey. I have drank a little bit of it and read numerous reviews on it. Not too many. I made decent reviews. Decent, respectable. Not over the top. But what do I think of it? So let's get into the nose of this. 20 years. When we talk about the American whiskey, we always say mash bill. A unique thing about this here is this whiskey is actually blended before it's actually there's a little thing I read here on it. Let's see if we can bring it up here because this one was actually they call this actually blended at birth. So Canadian Club whiskey is blended before it's aged, and this process, which is being called blended at birth, is the foundation for the portfolio of all Canadian Club whiskeys. And so we know that this whiskey here is based on the 6-year-old, which I believe is the premium, if I'm rightly, the 6-year-old. Same foundation there. It's a blend of rye malt, corn, and barley malt spirits. So it's got a nice blend to it there. The 12-year-old, I think it's called the classic, if I'm rightly. There's a similarity. I've had the 12-year-old. There's definitely a similarity in the two. This is slightly mellower. I've heard all the different reviews on it there, but I'm going to say they're very close, and I better not give this one up. We'll carry on with the review, and then we'll talk about that kind of stuff. But there is a lot of similarities between the two. So back to the nose, and so not overpowering the nose on the 20 here, by the way. So it's and we get the caramel, and we're really getting some Demerara sugars here. Still a slight bit of the citrus notes coming through now. Cookie dough. Even a slight bit of chocolate mixed in there. Berries. Definitely some berries mixed in there, almost like a raspberry. It does have a nice nose, and I'm lucky. This amplifies the nose, this Trudeau glass, so I'm getting a good, very good nose on this. And nothing wrong with the nose on this whiskey, okay? Let's just leave it at that. It's got a great nose. It's got numerous layers on the nose. We're jumping right into the palate. So, I was going to say Solange. I'm going to say cheers. Right off the bat, sweet. I mentioned the citrus notes. I'm going to say even orange. Caramel, toffee. Maybe even a little bit of the Scottish Macintosh toffee there. Canadian Club at 20 years. It's going to be a difficulty on that one. 20 years. What does it do? I think it's a lighter spirit. I'm not sure at what point. We know that as we age barrels, and I don't know if this is a plan by Beam Suntory that own the brand to offer the 20-year because it's more of a marketing offering, merchandising, or is this because they feel they're getting a good whiskey, and a 20-year-old whiskey, because there is a point where we reach the peak of what we can do in a barrel with these whiskeys, and then we go the other direction. But hey, they've gone 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and I have reviewed these, and I've been into both the 42, 43, and the 44, so I would say that, yeah, there is definitely a difference between this and this. I can guarantee you that. But proportionally to the price, I think that's what we're getting at right now. So, proportionally to the price, this is not an expensive whiskey. We're talking in the 60s, Canadian, $60. So, basically, it's a very affordable 20-year-old whiskey compared to a Scotch, or some of your other 20-year-old bourbons, in the States and that. So, okay, back to the palate here. Sweetness, definitely. I mentioned a light distillate, but caramel and the berries are there. We got some berries happening. I mentioned raspberry, maybe a little bit more of the strawberry. And we're talking about leaving that a bit of a coating on your mouth. It's a very velvety texture, that coating. So, okay, let's go right to the finish. Cheers. This is going to be a medium finish, short medium finish, shorter medium finish. And I'm almost going to anticipate there'll be no water added to this. I don't think it's necessary at 40. I think this might be as good as it gets, but this could be used in cocktails, though you might as well grab the 12 Classic if you're going to do a cocktail. I think it makes more sense. But if you were going to water it down to me, you're creating a cocktail because it doesn't need to be watered down anymore. It's really quite a presentable drink at 40%. When we talked about not just the ABV, chill filtering, all your Canadian whiskies, including, Dr. Don Livermore's, and I've read his books, and he has a rationale toward chill filtering, so there could be a huge argument between him and some of the Scottish reviewers, even some of the Canadian that have a high respect for him, by the way. He gets interviewed a lot. He's a celebrity. A very smart man. I've read a lot of his science, and like a lot of the other greats, Dr. Swan, and of course we have a whole now, it's not just Dr. Rachel Berry, there is so many people with doctorates that are into the distilling business in Great Britain and Scotland. There's a different science how they're approaching this today. And the interesting thing is that most of them are in, I'm not going to say cahoots, they're unfortunately in a situation where they're working with these large distillers, and chill filtering seems to be a foundation that they have worked with for quite a few years. Same with the coloring issue. So even the ABV percentage, so they are starting to, the ABV we see here is climbing with a lot, and it's in the States as well. It's in Canada. It's happening all over the world. So I think the argument now is amongst the reviewers against that culture, and that older culture might be finally, running into a new age of understanding whiskey. And so will we see chill filtering in the future? I think it's going to slowly disappear into two groups of people. You're going to have the offerings to the people where it's not a study to them. They don't care. They pick up something like this and they're enjoying it, and they don't want all the analysis. And then there's going to be the reviewers, and most prominent reviewer that is carried the banner against that is, of course, Ralphie Roy from Agvidi. Certainly the Whiskey Lock, the other channels that I see that question it. I think Jeff from G Whiskey. There's a whole culture of reviewers now that are fighting to get the distillers to at least offer, if you're going to offer the chill filter, let's offer something that is non-chill filter. Let's offer something that doesn't have coloring. So that's an argument, and it's for another time. We're going to leave that one alone. Canadian Club traditionally has been, chill filters traditionally been, in the very beginning, maybe not, but certainly in the most of its history, it's been a chill filtered as lot 40, and I'm not sure about 90, but I'm going to take a big guess on that one there. Overall, Danfield's, there isn't too many out there that are not chill filtering. So there's a few in the States, and we're seeing that slowly changing in the States. So, okay, let's get back to this review. I am going to say that the finish on this is decent. It's a short medium. This is a very nice, presentable rye whiskey that is not 100% rye. And it fits into the Canadian culture, the Canadian whiskey culture. Where am I going to put this? I'm going to give it somewhere between an 82 and an 83 as a 20-year-old. I think it's a nice whiskey. It's something I definitely had a few drinks of this. If I could drink it in the morning, I call this a summer whiskey. It's pleasant. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to ask you to drink wisely, drink intelligently. Do not drink and drive. Until the next time, cheers.